All right, so today, 5.2 in our lovely little unit, and we're going to talk about something that we should all know everything about, so we should just skip it.
Okay.
Right? Shouldn't we just skip? Oh, no, you're not going to do it, are you?
You mean like that's all world history was up until like high school?
What?
Just America.
All right.
Like the American and French are like the only religions different from.
Well, and there's kind of a reason for that. All right, so the Enlightenment ideas influenced resistance and rebellions against existing political authority, leads to the American and the French revolutions, and now the American Revolution. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that during this entire unit, I'm going to have Hamilton going through my head. All right. Okay. The American Revolution was the first revolution triggered by Enlightenment era demands for liberty and equality. Now, that's a statement that might need research. But based on the revolutions we are discussing, it is the first. Because who knows what hasn't been reported?
Probably like one.
For rights and liberty? Not in China. Well,
What about like
it didn't get very far. Tiananmen Square was almost 40 years ago. That's crazy. All right.
it was like 1980?
89. Yeah.
Wow. Like really?
Yep. Yeah, this looks familiar. British colonists had full rights of British subjects. Okay, so because they are British subjects, they prized self-government and were not expected to pay a lot of taxes. Look, they're an ocean away. Ocean away. Tomorrow I'm an ocean. Anyway, my gosh, it's everywhere. And getting information, getting an answer back from Parliament would take too long, so local governments were set up, the first being in Virginia with the House of Burgesses, and then moving on from there.
Did it move like north or south on from there?
Well, it'd be based on, it was Virginia and then Massachusetts as the colonies were created, yeah. Good question. In fact, 2/3 of Americans own land. 1/5 of people in England, Englishmen, own land. So again, if you're Hans, come to America. Because the opportunities for your future are brighter here than in England at the time. It's also worth noting, and speaking of England today, that they don't open up all their land for development. So housing is typically smaller than American housing, and it's more expensive because England, Scotland, they protect a lot of their land from development. So you're not going to see sprawling apartment complexes and things like that. And if you do, they're up by the airport.
Like in
Yeah.
except like
Yes. Why is it called the American Revolution and not the what? The British Revolution? Because honestly, because we live in America. It'd be interesting to see what they call it in Britain.
the colonies.
Yeah, they call it a colonial uprising. We call the French and Indian War the French and Indian War. The rest of the planet calls it the 7 Years' War.
Why would they call it 7 years for? When it was 9?
Because the fighting lasted 7. It took 2 years to resolve it. The treaty.
Oh, then why do people say it lasted?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Fighting stuff.
I don't know. I wasn't there. The Korean War hasn't ended.
No.
You're right, and they may have called it something different in 1783. They probably called it the War for Independence. I don't know. Again, don't have a TARDIS. Don't have a phone booth. I can't dial in numbers. I'd love to know though. A fact: only 10% of Americans or colonists living in America lived in poverty. 50% of Englishmen lived in poverty. Okay, that may be true, but there's a lot that goes into poverty. Are you a wage earner? If you own, I mean, there are lots of reasons for poverty. So that's a great number, but that's not an apples to apples comparison if you understand economics. But it would seem that just based on this, if you're to draw conclusions, which is all you have here, that it's better to live in the colonies if you're not a land-owning gentry, so-and-so, muckety-muck, House of Lords kind of person. In no part of the world are les petits and les grands so much upon par as here, where none of the people are destitute of the convenience of life and spirit and independence. That's nice. In other words, the gap between the rich and the poor, the haves and the have-nots, seems to be narrowest in colonial America. That was then. All right. Here we go. 1763, after the 7 Years' War, or the French and Indian War, because that's who the British fought against, French and Indians. That's why we call it the French and Indian War. Britain acquired most French possessions, and they also acquired a lot of debt, because it's just in, war is expensive. So all of this becomes part of England. Yay. Now, funny thing, never mind.
Wait, that up there at the very top becomes part of England too? Like the English one?
Yeah, well, not the colonies, but English territory. Not colonies. It's just land that England owns that they could, had we not become independent, colonies would have moved out there. Yes.
So when they became independent, did the British still own that, or would we take it?
No.
Like the ceding?
No.
Who owned it?
Well, we had the British begrudging, like they were supposed to leave, but they kept a couple of forts there. It's part of the reason for the War of 1812. They're not supposed to be there, but they don't leave.
So who owned it?
Technically, whoever had the fort. Britain wouldn't give it up. Americans begin moving west. People like Daniel Boone, they start moving into Tennessee, making places, but the English are still there. It's open to anybody. But the British have a hard time leaving. They're like that person that just won't leave a part. Or won't leave. All right. The British debt in 1756, 75 million pounds. In 1763, 133 million pounds. So, what do you do when you're in debt? You could take out loans. Take out loans from yourself. Who are you going to take out loans from? You're a country.
The Americans, they tax them.
That's not a loan. That's revenue.
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember that.
That's cash money. All right. So their debt has almost doubled, like 85%. So they decide, they're all fancy, that to tax American colonists led to demands for participation. Okay, so basically, wars are expensive. We just fought a war to protect you from the French and these random Native American tribes. Pay us. Your taxes have to go up. Sorry. You're a citizen of the colonies. You're a citizen of England. English citizens pay taxes. You have to pay more taxes because we were over here fighting for you. To which the colonists reply, oh, fine. Then I want to say in where my taxes go. I want to say, stay with us, Sam. I want to say in how much we are taxed. I just want to say, I want to be in part of the process. I want to be in the room where it happens. So, because I'm a British citizen, I should have representation.
Did they tax India?
They don't have India yet.
Oh, that's why they didn't tax them.
Right. And they own India. Why tax it? They're taking tea and cotton from there and making bank. All right. Getting, was it bags? All right. What's it called? I messed it up. All right. Anyway. This looks like Boston. That looks like the Charles River. All right. Britain's restrictive policies and taxes led to the American Revolution. Wow, they're leaving out a lot of stuff, but that's okay because you'll get that in the 11th grade.
What is that? Where's their massive?
Well, it's not to scale.
But there are
It's
like
people-
houses on it.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you can put houses on a wharf.
Yeah, but it has to be like pretty sturdy.
Well, sure.
Pretty substantial.
England does it. The Dutch have them on bridges and wharves. You can have houses on a wharf.
I know, I'm just saying where
You have to remember too. Look at how big the people are. It's not to scale. One dude on a boat. I'm on a boat. All right. Blah blah blah. Great. Okay, moving on. Okay. Average British tax, 2 shillings. The average American tax. This is in 1765. 1 shilling. That's 26 shillings, by the way. The public or political character of the Americans corresponds with the private one. They are haughty and jealous of their liberties, impatient of restraint, and can scarcely bear the thought of being controlled by any superior power. In other words, they're brinos. The colonists are brinos. They're British in name only. Like they see themselves separate because this is 1765. This is 162 years since Jamestown. So you're looking at 7 generations. These people aren't English anymore. They're English subjects, but they're Massachusetts, they're Connecticutans, or they're North Carolinians, they're Pennsylvanians, they're New Yorkers. All right, they're not British, and they like the freedom that they've grown accustomed to this lifestyle. They like it here. The king left them alone. It's sort of like, as a teacher, we're always told, you're being mean, don't smile until Christmas. That's what we're told. That's like one of the first things you learn as a beginning teacher. Don't smile until Christmas. Be mean, and then when you're nice, I think, oh, he's nice. But if you start nice, if you start loose, it's very difficult to reel people back in. They've been left more or less to their own devices to run their colonies. Not even like say, wait a minute, hold up, you're English. And they don't like it. Hey, we talked about this guy yesterday. Anybody remember him? Thomas Paine. I've been reading my Thomas Paine. All right. His common sense influenced colonists to seek a break from Britain rather than reconciliation. Common sense was a pamphlet. Pamphlet. I'll talk pretty one day. English will be next. Brought to you by the greatest invention of all time. All right. And again, what he says is, we have every opportunity and every encouragement before us to form the noblest, purest constitution on the face of the earth. Blah, 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 blah. Full of enlightenment, fervor, and rhetoric, and all the right buzzwords. And probably, deep down, would be okay with it. I don't know. I don't know Thomas Paine. Oh, here's a very, 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 very famous painting. What's going on here? Okay, what are they doing?
Constitution.
No, not Constitution. That's after the
Oh,
war.
is that like
The Declaration of Independence.
Thank you, Lucas. It's the DEC, the DOI, the Declaration of Independence, used Enlightenment ideas, John Locke. It is the greatest breakup letter ever written. Also, it was printed to be read aloud because what?
we're not going to learn about the fighting? We're just going to skip right to the end almost.
This is before the fighting. The war ends in 1783.
I know that, but like I thought it was just like a couple battles and
Who cares about the war? Who cares about the fighting? Fighting in every war is the same. People die. Why wars start and what happens after wars, far more important in my world. So battles, do you want to learn battles? You can go look up battles. People died. The poor people fight in wars, rich people start them. Where was I going with this? See, you got me all off kilter here. Oh yeah. So it starts off with, here's how the relationship used to be. You used to treat me like this. You used to treat me like this. And then you changed. And now you do this, and now you do this, and now you do this. So I'm leaving you. Like, if you go read the Declaration of Independence, it reads just like that. We used to be great. And then you changed. And I don't want to be with you anymore.
What part of it talks about who they used to be?
The beginning.
Yeah.
It's like that
The
letter.
preamble's in the Constitution.
It's like that letter.
It's the Declaration of Independence.
It's like what's it, Asher and Melissa. Remember?
No. Who are Asher and Melissa?
The breaking up the big signs?
Oh, that one. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. The little handwritten note?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah, Britain is Asher. All right. Britain is Asher in this situation.
Wouldn't America be Asher? Because Asher wrote the note.
No, because it was Asher's fault. This is Britain's fault. All right.
I thought it was like the girl's fault.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature, enlightenment, all men are created equal, enlightenment, unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, paraphrasing the Enlightenment, consent of the governed, enlightenment is the right of the people to alter or abolish and institute a new government, the Enlightenment, yada, yada, yada. All right, it's in there. That's all you need to know. Go back and read it at your leisure. Or, as they say in England, leisure. Okay. Oh, look, it's soldiers. After the Battle of Saratoga, America received assistance from the French because it was a battle that the Americans won, and the French saw it as like, okay, we'll go help them now. I think these people got a shot, and they're not gonna never mind. Anyway, so in comes Marquis de Lafayette, guns and ships. All right, this is gonna get me through the day. Turning point in the war is getting the French involved because one, remember, or maybe for the first time you're hearing this, they're the first European country with a professional army, which is part of the reason why they go broke. But it was big and paid and a full-time job. That's a change. Britain follows suit thereafter. And now Ben's gonna be disappointed. So here's Yorktown, and the war is over. All right. British forces surrendered to General George Washington in the Battle of Yorktown. The war ends in 1783. See, again, 2 years.
It was only two battles, main battles.
Well, there was more than two. There was Battle of Trenton. There was the Delaware. There's Valley Forge. There's Cowpens. There's Bunker Hill. Only Breed's Hill or Bunker Hill and Lexington and Concord.
Oh, why did they make it why did my own history teacher make it seem like a lot or something happened afterwards, and then this thing was sent, and then a couple of battles?
I don't know. Depends on what their curriculum. I don't know. I'm not them either. I don't know. I'm not omnipotent. I get like 3 things wrong a year. All right. But again, this fighting stops in 81. The treaty signed in 1783. It's called the Treaty of Paris because that's where they signed it. Most treaties are named for the location of the signature. The Treaty of Ghent ends the War of 1812. That's in Ghent, Belgium. So there you go. American Revolution is over. Here's the thing, though. What you have just seen slides of is the war for independence. The revolution doesn't involve a single gunshot. The revolution takes place the revolution begins with Stamp Act and the Coercive Act and the Continental Congress and the writs. The revolution is not the fighting. The revolution begins long before the fighting.
Aren't they the same thing?
No. I would argue they're not. I argue they're not.
When did the revolution?
1789.
So they are.
No, the war ends in 1781. The Constitution is written in 1789. Actually, I would argue 1791 with the Bill of Rights is when the revolution ends.
But what about the war ended in.
But that's just the war.
1783.
Sure.
But wasn't the war like a direct offshoot of the revolution?
It's a part of it.
Like a twig on a tree.
Yes.
So they're the same thing.
No.
They have the same DNA because they're part of the same tree.
Sure, but okay, here. All rectangles are all squares are rectangles? Not all rectangles are squares?
Yes.
Okay. So all parts of a tree are part of the tree, but they're not all twigs. They're not all branches. But it is all tree.
Yeah.
The revolution is the entirety of it.
Yeah.
The war is just a part of it. The war part, the combat part, is not the revolution. The revolution is bigger than 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The U.S. becomes a democratic republic, stressing popular sovereignty. In other words, rule the people. I can rule myself. I'm a big boy now. With written guarantees of freedom, eventually, that only apply to people who look like the people in this painting. But you got to start somewhere. And you got to start somewhere. Nowhere in the founding of our country does it say this perfect document, this all-inclusive, beautifully equitable document. Nowhere does it say that. It's a work in progress. The Constitution is a living thing. I argue. And we can discuss that as well. You all need to be in class. We can discuss. We the people. You all know the preamble. You know the Schoolhouse Rock. We the people of the United States, in order to form a perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. That?
Sure, that's okay.
We the people. You never seen this school? Oh my gosh, you people are missing out. You're so old. All right.
I've seen it.
Thank you.
I've seen it. I have 2 CDs of it. Or I guess DVDs because it's their videos.
Fair enough. The United States Constitution, nice, was created reflecting Enlightenment ideas of Montesquieu's separation of powers and checks and balances. Well, yes, but that was also standard handwriting. Yes, Mr. Hood.
What was there like our government before 1787 and after
A monarchy.
Like after the war ended when we broke away from Britain?
We had 13 different governments. We had the Articles of Confederation, the loosely binding arrangement. And it didn't work. And so they met the first, holy cow.
Would that be the
Constitutional Convention, I'm going to the Constitutional Convention. The first Constitutional Convention met to just fix the Articles. Kind of like Martin Luther, just wanted to fix the Catholic Church, then realized, nah, you just got to blow it up. Metaphorically. The Constitutional Convention met and realized that they had to start from scratch and rewrite it. So they made a whole new one. In the first form of government, there was no executive, there was no president. The powers in the Articles of Confederation were very limiting, but that's American history, so we're moving on. Sorry, I hate to cut you off like that because that's a valid question, but we just don't have time. Bill of Rights, which look an awful lot like ones written in England in 1689. These are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. These are not rights the government gives you. These are inalienable, natural rights. These are rights that are written here that the government cannot take from you. This is actually telling the government hands off these. So the government doesn't give you a right. If you're an Enlightenment thinker, if you believe in this document, the government gives you nothing. They protect what you have. And that's what these state. But there are limits. And the limits are simple. People argue freedom of speech and cancel culture, which is just garbage. Not freedom of speech is garbage. If my arm is the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or the Third Amendment, I can swing my arm wherever I want. As soon as I hit somebody, you lose that right because you've impinged on their right. That's how they work. freedom of speech works. You can say whatever you want, but as soon as you say something and it impacts somebody else and it affects their right, then you have violated that right. That's how you should look at it. All right.
I thought it was like you could say whatever you want.
Right, because you have, but that punishment is because you have actually violated someone else's right. That's why. Now, there are some things you don't do. You don't, like yelling movie in a crowded firehouse. Yelling fire in a crowded theater or in any building is a crime because you are potentially encroaching on the right of other people to life, liberty. Yes. That's where all this stems. This doesn't stem from we're going to outlaw this. It all stems ideally from the idea of this enlightenment idea and reason and things like that. All right. It's pretty philosophical and theoretically very noble. Despite political changes, the American Revolution led to few social changes. Slavery remained, and only male landowners voted. Which is why I posed the question on the agenda, was it really a revolution? And for a long time, the amount of land you owned determined how big of an election you could vote in. Also remember, too, that the people who, well, we'll leave it at this for now. Okay. We'll just stick to the notes. And then any questions if you ask them. Oh, wait, I'll go back. I just saw Europe. Oh my goodness, the American Revolution strongly influenced Europe, especially France. All right. And vice versa, because as I said yesterday, and if you remember back to our play, before I mentioned Hamilton, where was Thomas Jefferson the entire American Revolution? France. France? Ben Franklin was there before the war. I told you, man, read that autobiography. It's pretty killer. And oh, I got PLT in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen. And that's just the crash course in the American Revolution. It is not him talking about one of his books. And you're welcome to watch that at your leisure.
Does he like write which book?
I don't know. Does he write good books? Anybody? I got some nods. Okay, yes. All right, well, guess what? That's the American Revolution. So why don't we? See if this will work. And it doesn't. Okay.
It's a power plant.
Well, I opened it up and it went to it. It's actually that slide's actually linked. So if you were to
If it's like part of like the Microsoft stuff, you have to control like.
no, I just clicked on it and it went to here to YouTube, but not to those. Yeah. All right. I can find it anyway. So that's I can start the French Revolution today if you want, or we can just do it tomorrow, like I said I was going to do. It's up to you. But that wasn't very long because, again, we are doing a world history class. So we're going to talk about the American Revolution only from the standpoint and only contextually for you to understand how the Enlightenment went from Europe to the colonies, and that was really through trade and contact with the British and the French, and then how the American Revolution makes its way contextually and influences France moving forward. And then after France's revolution, Greece has one, Serbia has one, Ireland tries 4 or 5 times. Well, I mean, it's hard when you're Ireland and you're going up against the British. So it kind of, there's going to be a saying during the French Revolution that whenever France sneezes, or actually after the French Revolution with the Congress of Vienna, that whenever France sneezes, Europe catches a cold. So whatever happens in France tends to infect the rest of Europe. And you're going to see that play out in the next couple of units. Any questions out here from anyone about anything about this? All right. Well, I guess fix what you got to fix, work on what you got to work on, have an early lunch. Shoot me a remind, which means if you're not on it, get on it, with where you want your points to go. Oh, wait, don't leave. So at the end of the quarter, the points are erased. And a couple of things. In class, people, you only get 1 point a week because I see your face all the time. And I don't care if you say it's fair or not. The fact that you're in class gives you a comparative advantage over those not in class. So your scores will be, I guarantee you, your scores will be higher on average than those at home. Thanks for pointing that out, Gia. Well, so let's go ahead and start the French Revolution then. All right. I don't want to break trend. I don't want to break tradition. Hold on. We're not going to do that. But next quarter, 89 is the highest grade you can get with the points. And the reason I'm thinking that is because kids who actually earn an A should be able to say they earned an A. That's just kind of how I feel, and we can discuss that. And we'll go from there. It's not etched in stone. Nothing else has changed. Please, I don't know, practice on your own SAQs. If you want practice, that's great. We're going to start hitting DBQs next week for practice, and then there'll be the written part of your next test. Well, unified test is just multiple choice. Unit 6 test will just be DBQ. Hush, Miss Gilbert. It's also not very polite. I do not like blue spinach. So that's that. We'll discuss it later. We still have time. That's all for today. I will continue grading. The SAQs will take forever, so I'm not going to do that here. I'll do that at home when I can be more comfortable. I'll start going through shared folders for the pictures. If you have any questions, I'll be here. I'll see you all tomorrow for the French Revolution, which is fun. Now Europe gets fun. Now the world gets fun. Peace, everyone.